Pastor Paul.
There you are.
Right number?
Yes, we hear you.
All right.
Might be a little bit of delay tonight, Mike, just because of undisclosed location.
Okay, that's okay.
I'm in an undisclosed location tonight, but I'll be back in Florida and be preaching this coming Sunday under the big tent at Freedom Fellowship on Sunday. But tonight we're out of pocket. But anyway, good to hear your voice. How you doing?
Well, it's good to be here. Doing pretty good. Anticipating.
What are you anticipating, Mike?
Yeah. Well, I kind of left that open. Boy, what a time! What a time!
So, Mike,
you know what? It's rough out there, Pastor Paul, and this could be one of those moments, one of those defining moments. It really could be. I believe that either way, we're in for some turbulence. But I believe it's one of those moments. I do. I think it could be one of those moments.
You know, I titled the show America's Deliverance or Chaos or both. It looks like at this moment, Trump is leading in about 6 out of the 7 battleground states. And it seems to be the shifting kind of in his direction. This garbage statement and the way he handled it was brilliant. But people still are very apprehensive because they just don't know if the votes are going to, who's counting the votes and what does this all mean? So is this putting you on pins and needles here, Mike, on how this plays out?
Well, you know what, Pat Paul, I guess the outcome of the people is one of the heavier weights. Meaning, you have a lot of folks who, they in their minds, they really do believe this is the end. Either way, either way, they believe this is the end. And so you have a because when you're looking at the numbers, just talking to people and looking at numbers, you have diehard Democrats and diehard Republicans. But then you have something interesting happening among, like Arab Americans and Jewish Americans and so on and so forth. But I'll tell you something. From those who are Jewish and Israeli, Arabic, and those individuals, that 4 out of 5 people have no confidence in the Democrats. Here's why. This situation, 2023, October 7th, the Democrats, that could have been handled, the USA's part could have been handled differently. Not that we were in, everything is switched. And some of those people had some pretty good points. The feedback from the Israelis was, it used to be when the Democrats were in power that, we had less. And when the Republicans were in power, all of a sudden they had to go and, do some corrective measures and combat broke out. Well, that was flipped. It's opposite now in a very bad way. Now it seems, because nobody can deny that this year has been horrific. It really has. This year alone has been horrific. Last year was horrific as far as our military, as far as deployments, as far as engagements, and Middle Eastern chaos, and the international handling. Right, the foreign policy of Democrats. 4 or 5 people do not like foreign policy of Democrats. Period. They don't. And for that reason alone, they have lost confidence. The Democratic Party. Now, this is 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5. That's a huge number of people who, because they're living, right? They're living what the rhetoric is over here. right? They're living it. People over here talk about it, get feedback on it, but they're actually living it. And it seems in the last, 2 to 3 years, everything is blown up. It's getting worse. And all anybody wants to do is throw, money at it or, things of that nature. One thing they do know about Trump is that, yes, he stood for Israel, but more than that, he was willing to talk to people.
Yeah.
And that's something rare, because if you think about it, if you take a stern position with, for example, Iran, and you're telling them what you're going to do, but you're still throwing money at the situation. All you're doing is empowering them, right?
Right.
All these people being empowered, it perpetuates the war machine, right?
Yep.
Which is how the industry keeps going, but that's not the answer. I believe that some corrective measures, either way, are going to take place. Number one, because the economy cannot take any more of this dissolving action of Middle Eastern, I'll say, interaction from the U.S. in the way that they've been doing. You can't enable evil and then, campaign to fight the same thing that you have enabled to a degree. You can't do that. Everybody does not like Trump.
Right.
Even he said, you don't have to like me, but you may like my policies, right? But you have to think about something. I often put myself in people's shoes. I look at both sides.
Yeah.
I looked at the Democrats and I looked at the Republicans. Trump, one thing nobody can deny, he is who he is. But he sees America falling apart at the seams. And all of us, and people have no confidence in the economic promises of what's been happening. The one disconnect that's in Washington right now is that they see the numbers, they see the polling. The situation is on paper or by way of the numbers is one thing, but people have no confidence. They don't feel safe, right? They don't feel empowered. That means everything. But if you cut out how a person feels and you try to tell them how to feel, that's where they're messing up. That's essentially dehumanizing, the populace to a degree. When you tell somebody, it's like talking to a child. When a child they may be hungry, right? Now, some parents, having fed the child, will say, "You're not hungry. I just fed you." Well, the truth is, they don't know how that child feels. What if the child is hungry?
Right.
There's something altered in the child. So you have to take an extra step to see how somebody feels. They're not doing that. There's a huge disconnect. And so the election will probably play out in a specific way, although there's, the numbers are going to be contested. They are, big time.
You're right. You're right.
So everybody knows that. They're going to be contested. We're not going to have I don't believe we'll have instant results. You have a lot of people who talk, but when they get to the ballot box, they change. Because remember, they said some of the people that were upset with certain policies of the Democrats, saying they wouldn't support this and the other, they ended up supporting it anyway.
Right.
Same thing happened with Republicans. But something interesting has been happening for a long time. I think people they've been through these cycles so many times, and the political speech is so dead. When you start hearing somebody talk politics, utilizing these terms, of these political science terms, it's almost like a dead conversation. You've heard it all before. It is the key. You've heard the promises before. You've heard everything before. And the one thing people have not actually had was somebody who cared about how they feel. So the people are looking for that. They're looking for someone to personally connect with them, not to tell them they're going to be okay, right? Not to make them a bunch of promises, but to actually, be a person that does something. And I can see how this how things are playing out, America has a moment to go through. Because if regardless of who gets in power, we're going to have some corrective measures take place in this country.
Mike,
it's going to require.
Is there any is there any preparations being done on behalf of the government, or maybe the military, or both?
Yeah.
No matter how this election plays out, just to keep order.
Yeah, well, sadly, order is breaking down already.
What? What do you mean? Sadly, already.
Yeah. Well, it's violence. Well, you had early voting, right?
Yeah.
Violence has already begun. There have been some casualties already. It's already begun. People are jumping to the extreme side of things already. So you have a set of people out there that are just simply violent, and they're doing things they're just causing that. They've already begun. You also have people, listen, because I'll tell you, there are folks on both sides that have already said if their person does not win, they will not accept, the results, basically.
Right.
But we're not talking about just your average citizen. I'm talking about militias, well-armed.
Are there militias
to accept the results?
Are there militias? Is there militias on both sides, Mike?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
So civil war, even though
you have radicals,
okay,
you have real radicals on both sides.
Civil war then is a word I don't never even want to talk about, but I'm concerned about post-election threats coming from both sides. General Mike Flynn, who was the National Security Advisor, was fired after 3 weeks during the first Trump administration, is saying that the post-election threats are at an all-time high coming into this election on both sides. Is he correct?
That's from the militias. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
When Trump
from
says
there's,
there's,
you know what they have to do.
Okay. So that's not good, because you don't think we're going to have a declared winner on November 5th, do you? Or
no, I don't. I think there's going to be recounts and more recounts and more recounts. I also think, by way of what they've been advertising, I hate to say this, but it's because everything is computerized, right? It's incredibly easy for people to be dishonest.
Hang on, Mike.
Incredibly easy.
Can I do like this?
And
is he still there? Or did we lose him?
You still there, Mike?
Yeah, I'm here.
Sorry, my alarms are going off.
Okay, Mike. Sorry about that. Pick it back up where you left off there, Mike.
Okay. No, I was just saying that because everything is electronic, right? It's not like, here's the problem. We can only have confidence in a system that somebody else developed, that somebody else deployed, right? Most people don't have confidence in the mechanism of voting anymore. They don't know. It's almost like nobody spent enough time to demonstrate to people how it works, right? For example, if there were 19 components to it where everybody had to validate everybody else's thing, it would raise confidence. But people simply do not have the confidence. And if you think about it, look at all of the systems that have been hacked. The cell phones, federal records, and federal databases, all these different things. How you know and I know that they have sleeping viruses and worms. They're just waiting to do some type of cyber crime on that very day. They're going to launch everything they have at the USA. during the elections. I don't think that people are taking that out of consideration because you don't hear that being spoken about too much. You just don't hear that. They're going to hack us to pieces on election day, right?
Yeah.
I just don't see the numbers coming out that day. And I think when they do, if they name one person or the other, people will go to the extremes. They're going to go to the extremes. This may, this is going to be a very different, it may fatigue folks due to the length of time it would take to validate the results. But this is just where we are. Because you essentially have a little over half of the nation that does not trust the other half, right? And when you're in that situation, well, it's going to have to be a different type of shakeout.
Now, if Trump is leading in 6 out of the 7 battleground states, if it looks like if he's winning those that he's leading in, it should be a good sizable victory for him. I'm thinking that if they declare him the winner because he's won those many states, it would be a lot better for everybody than if it's close and he wins 3 of them and she wins 2 of them, and then there's 2 more that are still counting. That's when we run into some serious problems. And it's very possible that could happen, as you know. And there's so much tension on both sides. And as you said, nobody trusts each other. This is where we could either have America can be delivered or chaos or both. And that's why we've been praying for a long time that we don't want that. I don't think anybody would want this. But boy, we're so divided. People are trying to do anything to cling to power. And if they're willing to do anything, they probably will.
They are. Sometimes I wish people would. I live by a certain standard. I always give myself the worst case scenario. And I think about that worst case scenario and begin to, so when it does not happen, it's a very good day. But if it does happen, I'm prepared for it. I believe that people are not prepared for what's about to happen on either side. Because either person that wins past, well, for one, if they announce a winner, right, prematurely, and it turns out that's not the case or it's too close, and I know that if they did that, it would be a good thing they did for most people. But you have radicals that would say, oh, no, we want everything, right? We want all the votes tallied. Suppose Kamala Harris, all of a sudden, they show her leading, and somebody announces her as winner, right? People would say, no, we're going to count everything again twice or something like that, right? So it's going to happen. Either way, it's going to happen. The tensions are too high. I believe this time man does not have an Apple solution what's needed. This time, it's going to be a move of the Lord's children involved in this, or we will have chaos. If God is not involved purposely in this election, we will have chaos.
I agree.
Because there's no peace now, right?
No.
It's a razor thin line. In a civil war right now, we're sitting on a razor.
All right, and Mike just got cut off, folks. He said the word civil war. That might have been why they cut him off. When he comes back, we're going to change categories. We're going to talk about King Charles and the cancer he has and what's going on there, because that affects the world, this global order that we're talking about. We'll wait for Mike to call back in again. I mean, it's a big deal, but I think Mike has given us pretty well his feelings on this situation. Now, election night, I'm going to be broadcasting live exclusively on my website at paulbegleyprophecy.com. Exclusively. I'm going to have different guests on. I'm going to go live at 6 p.m. Eastern, and I'll be on at least till midnight. My son, Paul Begley Jr., Paul Andrew Begley, will be co-hosting with me. We'll have a lot of different people on and get their thoughts and opinions. I'm still waiting for Mike to call back. He hasn't called back yet. He was cut off when he brought up that situation, so we'll wait for Mike's call. So you don't want to miss it. It will not be on YouTube. I will not be on YouTube. I will not be on Patreon. I will not be on any of the other platforms, because I already know they're going to censor. I already know they're going to cut people off. They're going to ban people. They're going to shadow ban. They're going to disconnect. So I'll do it just at my website. Okay, just at the website. Mike, are you there? Mike?
Okay, I'm right here.
Okay, Mike, I think you hit a hot button. Maybe we should shift gears. And let me bring up King Charles. King Charles has cancer. Kate Middleton has cancer. And both of them have it pretty serious. King Charles was just in the American Samoa. Said, I sure hope I get to live and see you again. I guess he's getting ready to go back to England, where he's going to be going through some very intensive treatments. And I'm not feeling good about his prognosis. What do you know about it, Mike? And where this is big, isn't it? I mean, this is big.
Yeah, they've been doing a lot of checks to make sure that the power transition is as smooth as possible. They've been doing this for the last, 3 or 4 months. To make, just to ensure that transition of power takes place as quick and as smoothly as possible in the event he doesn't make it. So they've known for at least 4 or 5, maybe 6 months that he's been, what his real condition is. Harry has bought back into it too, because unfortunately there has to be some more folks who are not by way of their health. They could have some issues also.
Well, we know Kate Middleton has cancer, and it's pretty serious. And she's gone through a lot of treatments, and she's trying to recover, but she has not been given any kind of clearance at all. Neither has King Charles. William is next to the throne. His philosophy may be totally different than King Charles. I'm not sure, where he'll go, but there's big deals getting ready to be signed. I mean, I expect Trump to win the election after all the chaos is over. He immediately is going to work on the Middle East and on Russia, Ukraine. He may try to put together some type of major Middle East peace deal that ends the war in the Holy Land and brings peace. Would it require the signing off by the king and the Pope, and who else would need to be involved?
Well, America by itself does not have the wherewithal to maintain that peace internationally. So anything America would establish would quickly fall apart without, the king and the Pope there getting involved in it. I do foresee, I will suspect something. Think about this. Harry and his family have not been getting along largely due to his brother's stubbornness.
Right.
His brother's quite stubborn and is for his own kingdom. And he'll put his kingdom before anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
He'll put his kingdom before anything. So I want to remind, if he loses Kate, right, he's going to be a bit, and his dad at the same time. That's a big loss for him.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's a huge loss for him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So he's going to be he's going to be like iron that won't bend. And if he foresees, he will exercise extended authorities too. Because with or without King Charles, the Red Dragon, their crest, will be flown. They will do things in accordance with the times we live in. Because even with King Charles, he was set to make some global announcements. Now, nobody knows all of what those global announcements were going to be. But we do know it would have altered the order of how things operate in the world, right? They have that right, regardless of what people think or what conspiracies they think do exist. He still has that right to change the order of the globe. And I believe his son will do it.
Yeah, I think William is willing to step up and change the order. And I do agree with you that even though him and Harry were close at one time, he will put his kingdom over Harry and over any influence, because without his father or his wife, there's nowhere to balance. He has no one to go to, and his grandmother's dead. I mean, this is a gigantic situation, and I know that England runs off of Parliament, but that, believe me, that Parliament don't do anything without clearing it past the king. I don't care what they're going to do. They can't even pick a prime minister without the blessing of the Queen Elizabeth or now King Charles. So this is a big deal, what's going on here. And the timing of that with the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the war in Israel and the Holy Land with all these nations coming against Israel, the timing of all of this is just, and with the election in America, it's extraordinary. I don't even know how to put it other than it's a prophetic convergence of the end of days. I mean, I'm not saying that time ends tomorrow, but this is certainly going to reshape the world, right?
Yeah, you're right. And I firmly believe that without the Christians, everything's going to go super fast in the wrong direction quite quickly. This guy is, he's ready to rule. He's ready to change whatever he has to change. He's already cold and callous when it comes to his own family in quite a few respects. So you're looking at somebody who's not afraid to enact what he needs to enact. Even Harry knows that, right? So that in line with everything that's happening. Plus, solar maximum is about to hit us too. If you think we had solar problems the last year, the last few months,
right?
Oh boy, we're in for it. We're really in for it now. We're really in for it now.
Yeah, I was.
There's some other eventualities.
Go ahead, Mike.
There's some other eventualities that the USA is going to have to face, postpone. If we ever get tied up, if we ever, because I'll say it again, prophetically speaking, Israel is being positioned to be altered this time. Right now, there's a severe threat over Benjamin Netanyahu's head. A severe threat. The Middle East is a tinderbox greater than what's being, advertised. And it's only you have Iranian forces right now that have been positioning for the last 4 days. You have the Houthis are jumping all over the place. You have other nations who are now seemingly jumping into the fray itself. Saudi Arabia is demanding that Israel and Lebanon, right, start to establish some sort of reconstructive peace. Like right now, they're demanding it. Now, when Saudi Arabia starts demanding things, they have the money to withdraw from other nations to cause some other upsets in the Middle East. And so we have some very time-sensitive issues taking place right now that really may not wait until the election, right? And we also have another problem. There's one thing nobody is discussing.
What's that?
And that is we have been effectively hacked. We've been effectively hacked too many times this year to believe that we're not going to have disturbances in more areas than one. I give you an example of something. Have you seen that place where all the EV vehicles, Elon Musk's vehicles, have parked themselves?
Yes.
And they drive in there and drive out. Have you seen that place?
Yes.
Well, it's caused a few times. It's caused a bottleneck that nobody can explain, traffic-wise, right? Now, all of this is starting to happen right before the election. You have a bunch of things happening before the election. All these things are hackable. Number two, they're just hackable. And that situation, I believe, is going to really show itself here soon, right? We have systems right now. Right now, we have systems that we know some nefarious software is on. It's just a matter of finding it. In other words, the virus can sit in your system for years, and you wouldn't even know it, right? Nobody would know it until it starts being utilized. Think of it that way. Now, how many systems could be embedded within the USA? We're going to find all this out during this election. We're going to find it out. The nation, for example, Iran does not want Trump back in power. You know that, right? They do not want Trump back in power.
Right.
They tried, a document was found where they tried to provoke the USA into, that little Harris deal that they said that they want, they want Harris to win. They did that to try and provoke, the people into selecting Trump, because Iran is an enemy, right? But it backfired. It backfired on them. And so they had to go back to the drawing table. Now they're going to have to, there's some more papers are found, because everything is starting to leak out all over the place. They had plans to strike the USA. You know that, right?
Well, yeah, I know they do.
Power plants in the USA.
Yes, they do. I know that. And, is that part of what is that in Arizona? We're getting information that Arizona and Texas are very vulnerable right now. Mike, has there been any chatter that you've heard?
Texas, yes. Washington, D.C., big time. In Washington, D.C., there's a nuclear power plant outside of a few areas. But yeah, they're going to try something. They will try something. There's been extra security put on our nuclear waste. There are going to be some traffic deviations when the elections do take place, because they're going to try something. There are Afghan nationals in the USA right now, right? Operatives in the USA. They're planning something on election day, just so everybody knows that. So you have all these threats and mishaps that could take place. I'll be glad if they don't, but I suspect that we may entertain some unforeseeable setbacks during the elections. But again, it is something that could be utilized, Pastor Paul, actually to start bringing people together. Once we get past this leadership, the quarrels, and a good transfer of power, that people can begin to repair, because they're going to need it. We face a very deadly year coming up. We have a deadly year on the horizon, period. And if we don't do something, just like Spain, those people in Spain are suffering. Each person out there is saying that at least every individual out there that was in that flood area lost somebody. That was a lot of people out there cleaning up. They said everybody out there has lost somebody. We're still recovering here in the USA, but it's not like Spain.
Yeah.
If you think that was bad, this winter is going to set the USA back some. And we may not survive 2025 when it comes to some of the infrastructure problems in the weather. We have to really, we got to change some things now. We can't afford to remain stagnant. And they're going to have to secure the oil in America, because I can almost guarantee you the enemy is going to try to set that oil and gas on fire. That's why the numbers, the investment numbers of oil have been changing in the USA. And the gas has been changing worldwide because they know that it's now under threat. It's a target of terrorism right now.
Oh.
So we have some crucial things to sort through. Leadership is going to make or break us big time. It will.
And you're exactly right. North Korea, we're getting a lot of reports now that they've got 10,000 troops in Russia. 3,000 may already be deployed on the front line fighting. Another 7,000 or more are in training. Is this Putin getting in position to negotiate with Trump if Trump goes into power, to say, hey, look, I'm moving forward here. I got support. I got allies. I got troops in here helping me. Is this part of his negotiating ploy, or are we about ready to see World War III here?
Well, keep in mind that Trump and Putin have open dialogue, right?
Right.
They can have open dialogue. He can actually talk to Putin. Nobody else can.
Right.
So Putin may listen to him. And the Ukraine, they know where they stand, too, right? They know where they stand. So that will is brought to an end. One way or the other.
You feel better.
Brought to an end.
You feel that he will. You feel like that Trump will bring this European war to an end, but that the Middle East is a whole different situation. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, because he knows how to talk to Putin, right? And he knows how to speak to the Ukraine to give them an ultimatum, right? Because they're going to have to. The truth about the Ukraine is going to come out. They were trying to get more and more territory. Period. Now, something else has happened too. We've had direct involvement. That's being found out in a few places, and that changed everything. That's why Putin is ready right now to launch nuclear weapons if he needs to. He suspects that someone will attempt to preempt him. He's got evidence of interference that somebody's been fighting on behalf of the Ukrainian army that was not Ukrainian. And he has the evidence now. And the USA knows it. And so that changes everything. So he needs, I believe that Trump probably is the only person that can talk to Putin. But the Middle East is a very different story because of Israel and the just how those people of Hamas truly are, how the people of Hezbollah truly are. They're not going to see certain threats he used the first time to cut off the money is not going to work. It's just not going to work. I'll say it again, and this is not well known, but Iran does not need anybody's money right now. They don't.
Wow.
See, one of the arguments on the Republican side that folks keep missing is they were trying to tell people that by the USA not sanctioning Iran, that's how they amassed so much money. It's not that we are, just release money to them. These guys have trillions of dollars a year they're amassing through petroleum, right?
Yeah.
And if we had had sanctions in place, they would not have had the equipment and the resources to get that out of the ground. But because we lifted sanctions, right, we allowed them to have their own, to do their own thing, or they can make a lot of money. Now, that's an imbalance of wealth in the Middle East, which is funneling through other places. rain is part of that. All the
All right. So once again, Mike's getting into some sensitive areas, and this is very rare for him to be totally cut off twice in a live broadcast. But I'm going to move him again to another situation. I think I'm going to take him. He mentioned the sun. He mentioned things are about ready to really, that we're going to be going through a 2025. It's going to be hard to survive. You haven't seen nothing yet. So I think we should take him into that area because both times when he talked about two different war strategies or anything to do with that, one was on the Middle East, the other one was on Russia. He's been shut down. They don't want him to go any further. And this election, folks, the whole situation is so critical. So, all right, Mike, it sounds like they want us to move another direction here.
Yeah, we'll leave that alone too.
Yeah. So why don't we do this? Let's talk about the sun. The sun has been exploding with CMEs, as you know, UV rays, X class. There's one thing they just said yesterday. It's raining protons raining down on the earth in incredible amounts. So, Mike, look, what's going to happen? And plus, oh, by the way, there's 14 asteroids that went by the earth, missed the earth on the 28th of October. 4 of those scraped past us. October 30th, we did have one deep impact by a small one called asteroid 2024 UG9, and more are on the way. But so we got the sun, we got the asteroids, we got the charged particles. Help us understand this planet X and what it's doing now. What phase are we going into?
Well, we're closer to that meteor storm. So I hope that people don't forget that part.
Yeah.
We'll have a time of black winds. I'll call it the black wind.
What?
That is not going to be a good time.
Black winds?
Just imagine black winds. That's when big black smoke will cover just about everything. And you'll have to get down to you have to duck about 2 or 3 feet to go underneath it. But it's going to be hot. It will do damage in quite a few places. That is just the time we live in. We're going into a new part of the galaxy we've just not been before. It's full of debris. We're not going to escape the debris, right? We're going right into it. That's one part. This is outside of any external object that's going to influence us further. And speaking about the sun and what's been happening to the sun, it's the solar winds and the chemistry of the sun has been changing. Let me give an example. People are putting their pumpkins out for Halloween, right?
Yeah.
Same pumpkins that they've been using for years. They put them out this year, and in 3 days, discoloration. An orange pumpkin turns purple and blue. Okay, that happens with extreme UV. That's what happens when UV is unchecked. It will take certain colors, right? And it will start breaking down certain materials. Because UV is a certain wavelength, it will affect those colors of that wavelength, stripping them out, leaving only a purplish, bluish color with another hue associated with it. So people have been complaining that their pumpkins have been turning, bluish purple. These type colors. Pumpkins they've had for years, in the family. They set them out and then they take them back. So
yeah,
we're having problems. Now, for having extreme UV, 2 things have happened. One, our atmosphere is a lot thinner than we thought it was. That's number one. And that's bad news in and of itself. Number 2, the sun's chemistry is altering too fast, which means we're not going to be able to combat the changes in the sun. We just simply won't be able to combat them. Imagine a day when a person walks outside, right, short sleeve, temperature's about 81 degrees. That's not too hot. 81 degrees. Nice day. They walk outside. They get 20 steps from their house and they fall out. Right? Just imagine that. And then they get taken into the hospital and they are diagnosed with radiation poisoning.
What?
Just like that. Just imagine that. And then, of course, after that, the blisters come and everything else. With an increase in UV, the next step are these large doses of radiation. Radiation is cumulative. So once you're exposed to radiation, right, it's not going to go out of your system. The people who have flown at 30,000 plus altitudes, the higher you fly, the shorter your career is going to be, right? Because you're exposed to too much radiation. Once you reach a certain level, you're not flight worthy anymore. You can't fly anymore, right? So they take your wings away. It's unfortunate. But that's happening to pilots. Notice we have a pilot shortage, right?
Yeah, we do.
You notice that?
Yeah.
A pilot shortage. Wait a minute, but they said they gave some erroneous reason that did not work out regarding paperwork, regarding those individuals that were working for these companies, right? The numbers did not work out. I don't think anybody went back to investigate exactly why we lost so many pilots. Well, when you go back medically, a lot of them have been medically halted from flying again.
Now, I know that when they get
radiation.
55, they're supposed to kind of end their careers. But you're saying it's even ending sooner because of the radiation levels. It's just too much.
Yeah, what about 30, 35?
That's crazy.
That's not, these guys, it'd be okay if they were all, in their 70s or 50s, 60s or 70s.
Right.
Yeah, that'd be plausible. You could say, okay,
Yeah.
Not 35. Not when you have a bunch of people. The average age is 35 and they have complaints about aviation employment. Something is wrong. Something has happened.
Now, are they going to go?
We have companies.
But Mike, is this also because we're going to AI pilots that there's not going to be as much of a need for?
No, not that. Not that. Because we lost those pilots, and then the industry was losing about $100 billion. What is it, about $100 billion every 2 or 3 months or something like that? They're not going to lose $100 billion every 2 or 3 months because something is coming out in the future. They're going to get every single dime they can, right?
Yeah.
This cost them big time. It cost them big time, but medically, you cannot send up a pilot to fly if they've been exposed to too much radiation. See, when the airlines, they started to fight for the employment of the pilots. That told the story. Why would the airlines get rid of a pilot and then fight to have the pilot reinstated? That makes no sense. So something else was happening.
Well, radiation is taking over, as you said. UV rays, it's affecting big time. The sun is more intense, more hotter. Maybe the temperature doesn't have to be as high. The UV rays is, and this was biblical. This is in the book of Revelation. This is exactly what the Revelation says will happen. That men will be scorched, and they will gnaw their tongues for pain, and they will blaspheme God. But they still won't repent of their sins, won't repent of their evil deeds. We're just about in that era now, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. Because they're not repenting, they're justifying. More and more people are starting to justify their evil deeds, right? That's why we have so many grotesque policies now. They're just justifying it. And that's bad. That's a bad move, but that's where we live. But with all these environmental changes, with the solar changes, we're really going to feel it this year coming up. As far as the weather this year, is any indication of a pattern, right? Because now the meteorologists, those at NOAA, they now expect, and they're starting to admit that we have a problem, right? Special reporting is being put together for the budget of next year to cover disasters. Remember a long time ago we talked and I said follow the insurance companies.
Yeah.
Because they'll stop insuring homes for flooding.
Yeah.
You know that people can no longer get flood insurance through their insurance company. Now they have to go to FEMA to do that, right? Can you imagine that? You don't get flood insurance if you live in some of these areas.
Oh, I know.
The insurance companies are out of money. They're out of money.
Yeah.
They're out of money. Some of the other natural acts will be added to that. In fact, they changed the list. If your car gets, if you live in a certain area, I can't say when you get hit by a meteorite, insurance does not cover it. Why? Because too many people have been putting in claims from meteorite damage. So they don't cover that anymore either.
So the changing,
it's getting worse.
It's going to get worse and worse.
These natural disasters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the earth is definitely changing, exactly like Jesus said we would see in Matthew 24, Mark 13,
Yeah.
Luke 21, just like Revelation said, just like Isaiah 24 said, the earth's going to reel and rock and tilt and like a drunkard man. We're going to see, all these events. This should be a sign. All these accumulative events should certainly send a message that the Bible's true. I mean, we're on the verge of Ezekiel 38, the World War III. We're on the verge of calamities from the polar caps melting. There's some serious things happening. I know we just found out that in the Fort Lauderdale area that they're having to raise all of the walls of the land, the sea walls, 12 feet. Everyone's mandatory. You have to raise your seawall 12 feet because of coastal flooding or coastal impact, because the water is rising. And isn't that kind of what you said would happen?
Yeah, back a long time ago, we talked about a park in Florida that the benches they're sinking. Every time you go there, water is coming up over these park benches. But that's happening in quite a few areas. And Nevada, Arizona, Barstow, for example. Can you imagine a place like Barstow, or in California? Imagine a place like Barstow having 2 inches of water instead of that place is so dry, right? That place is incredibly dry. But can you imagine a place like that totally inundated with water by water damage? There's evidence of Barstow that the water came up there a long time ago. It's coming up again. The West Coast, a part of the West Coast will be totally dead soon, and nobody can stop that from happening. Seawater is killing the trees, is killing the inland vegetation and everything else. It's happening. Saltwater intrusion is taking over fresh water. Municipal companies are having to really reroute whole water systems. And this is both on the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, you name it, they're having to do it. And Texas and New York have a severe problem because of all the pipes underneath the ground, right? New York is the worst. If something were to explode underneath the ground in New York, that whole city is going to go up. We will see Texas having flames come up from the ground up and from fires above, right?
What?
Same thing will happen in New York.
So
they can't get to those pipes. They put that piping down their past a long time ago when they first started building it. And there's no way they're going to replace that. Petroleum is traveling all throughout the ground in Texas, all the way out to sea in the Gulf, to the safe places. But the Gulf is no safe place anymore. There's a heat plume underneath in the Gulf, and there's some unknown thing in the Gulf that are going to end up, wreaking havoc on anything out there. So imagine the entire Gulf in flames. But if you're going to have you remember the oil spill they had, right? The BP oil spill.
Yes.
Imagine that same oil spill times, I'll say times 7, something like that. Right? You think we could, overcome that quickly?
No. It took 100. It took 101 days to deal with the BP oil spill. 101 days. Now, if we start having natural gas eruptions or explosions on fire, that's going to be incredible on how to deal with that. I don't even know how you deal with that, so. And you're saying New York could be worse.
Yeah, New York will be. They have, unfortunately, when they began to build New York, they didn't have any higher technology there, so they built a piping system underneath the ground, right below the subway. And they cannot get to some of those pipes. Those pipes are leaking, right? They're old. They don't use that material anymore. They use a composite. And, they're just leaking gas all over the place. All they can do now is maintain and flood those areas where the gas leaks are. As far as repair, most of them they can't get to. So that's a trouble area too. And in time, because things are so unstable, it's only a matter of time before something falls from the sky and hits in that place. And then we'll see what the end result is.
Mike, I'm going to be doing a live broadcast next Tuesday night during the election, live. Ask different people to come in. It'd be great if I could ask you to come on and spend a few minutes, 10, 15, 20 minutes with us and get your take on what's happening that night. Because there could be a lot of other things besides election results. There could be a lot of serious things happening. So if you're able to do that Tuesday, it would be great.
Okay, I'll be there. Just let me know when.
All right, I'll have Heidi send you an email, and we'll set the time up with you, okay?
Sounds good.
All right, Mike. Well, hey, you gave us a lot to chew on tonight, a lot to think about, and a lot to pray about. And so I appreciate you coming on and being with us tonight.
Pastor, is always an honor. Stay safe. God bless.
All right, we will. God bless you. The honor's mine. Thank you, Mike. God bless.